What is going on, people? Hope you're all keeping well and safe. I was fortunate enough to sit down with, or virtually sit down with, Myha'la Herrold, who plays the lead role in Industry, so Harper Stern. We literally just caught up over Zoom. I wanted to talk to her about her background, her story, her journey, and just find out a bit more about her. So hopefully you can learn about her through this interview. I hope you enjoy it. It's an informal conversation, and yeah, let's just get into it. Enjoy.
I'm so great. I'm so fucking honored. What is this? I mean, you're like such a legend to me because you like dive of our show, and it was like so special and cool, and like this is the kind of thing that we hope would happen, you know? But like, I just respect to you, man. It's so sick.
Honestly, well, first, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. It means a lot. But literally, I feel the same way. I'm like, I've got the main character, and obviously you're gonna, like, I can tell straight your career is gonna take off before you know it. And it's like I'm interviewing you. Like, it was the last thing I expected, but thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Of course, my absolute pleasure, man. Yeah. Love
it. I just want this to be informal. Like, people will obviously want to get to know you a bit more. I'm curious to hear your story, your goals, ambitions, and all of that. But more than anything, informal chat, just conversation. How's lockdown going?
I feel very lucky and like privileged to say that lockdown has been pretty okay for me. Like, I am a homebody through and through, and I sort of felt like I was on my own version of lockdown before it even actually like officially started, because I just like don't really leave the house that much. Yeah. When I moved back to New York after we filmed in Wales, I like moved away from the neighborhood where all my friends were, and like they all had like jobs and lives, so I wasn't seeing people anyway.
Yeah. And interesting. And what was Wales like? How long were you guys? So when did filming finish? When did you go out there? How long was it? Like, I'm curious to find out everything about that.
Yeah, so we started, I got to Wales on, I want to say June 15th-ish.
Okay.
And then I had the rest of the month to like get settled and prepare and do whatever. I got my hair braided because at the time I had a shaved head like all throughout college and when I graduated, and then when I got this part I wanted her to have braids, so I started to grow my hair out. My hair was like this long, so when I got there I got my hair braided and like got settled in my little apartment in Wales, and then we started filming on July 1st. And then we shot through December 20th, I believe.
Got it. And that was 2019. How was it your first time in Wales?
Yeah, it was actually my first time out of the US.
Oh, right. Wow.
My first stamp on my passport, which was really sick. Like, I was on the plane and as we were like, you know, coming from the water to land, and I was looking down and I was like, wow, England, it's so green. And I remembered that when I was young, like, I don't know, 14 or 15, I would like get caught in this YouTube rabbit hole of like indie acoustic musicians who played like in the parks in London. I think the YouTube channel's called Burberry Acoustic or something like that. I don't know if it still exists, but I was like obsessed with it, and I was like 14 being like, I belong with the artists in London. Like very emo and weird, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like this like fantasy of mine when I was little is like actually coming true before my eyes. So it was really cool. I like landed in London, got on a train to Wales, and then when I got there, like someone met me and let me into my apartment, and they were like, okay, great, we'll see you in like 2 weeks. And I was like, bye.
Wow. Was there anything that confused you or that felt completely different from New York?
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know about confused. I was relatively prepared for it, but of course I had that very typical like American in anywhere that drives on the other side of the road thing, where I was like, you know, clenching my teeth in the backseat. But I think the thing that was the most surprising was like how nice everyone was, like particularly the people, like the taxi drivers. They're like, hi, how you doing, where are you coming from, like all of it, like wanted to know my whole life story. And anytime I get in a taxi in New York, they're like, okay, where are we going, and then they don't speak to you. You know, so I was like, I don't know if you're like genuinely interested in what I'm doing, but everyone was super nice. I got used to it pretty quickly, but I love to be social, so I felt very very special.
yeah. No, you get in London, it's really weird. Some people are very extroverted, so you get that open vibe. People want to chat to you,
right?
And then some people are very introverted. They just go about their business. They don't really create conversation.
Right.
For you, so did you grow up in New York? Are you a New Yorker for your whole life, or have you moved around? Or
no, I grew up in San Jose, California.
Nice.
I grew up there, and then when I went to college, I went to Carnegie Mellon and studied musical theater, which is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I went all the way across the country. And from young, when I started doing theater, I was like, I'm gonna live in New York, like, do that thing that you do when you go to New York and like do the thing. So as soon as I graduated college, I moved straight to New York in like, what would that be? Spring of 2018. So I wasn't really there for that long. I was living in New York for about 9 months, 9.5 months before I left for Wales. But I definitely feel like a New Yorker at heart. Like this is definitely home for me now.
Got it. And so did you know from a young age, or did you have family members in the creative space, or how did you know you wanted to go and build a career in this arena?
I was always a very exuberant child. My mom likes to tell people that I came out of the womb singing, which is very cute because I'm pretty sure I came out screaming, but what's the difference, right? But I was very dramatic as a child. And then when I was 6, my mom put me in my first, there was a community theater quite close to my house in Willow Glen. And I started when I was like 6 years old. And my mom said, she likes to tell people also she held off putting me in like theater like that because she knew the second she did it, it would be like game over and I would never stop doing it. And she was right. I was in that community theater until, I aged out essentially. And then when I went to high school, all of my friends from the theater program were like, oh, this particular high school has a really good arts program. And so I just went there, and it happened to be a private Catholic school, which was like so not my vibe. But I was like, that's cool. I can suffer through religion class for 4 years to like have all these cool arts classes. And then, from there, I just was like, okay, I don't want to do like normal school stuff. Like, I'm definitely not suffering through math for 4 more years. So I might as well go to college for acting, for theater. I just auditioned at like the 10 best schools. I was really like so not in the know of like what it really meant, like auditioning at the 10 best schools. Some people will be like, oh my God, that's a big deal. But I was really lucky. Like my mom was always like, you do what makes you happy and the rest will follow.
Nice.
Like people would ask, oh, does she have a plan B? Like that's a really competitive industry. Like what if she does, and she was like, get out of here with that, because we're not going to put that energy into the universe. We're just going to let her do her thing, what makes her happy. And, success, money, whatever your definitions of those things are, will just follow as long as you're happy and satisfied.
What you're working on. As long as you do what you love, everything else will follow.
Right.
Just got to put the work in and be really good at it. And clearly you are. So,
Thank you. Yes. So that's just what I did. And it's pretty crazy. Like Carnegie Mellon is an excellent school. It's like one of the top acting programs in the world. And I like growing up, I initially thought I was going to be a dancer. Like when I was like 8, I was like, I'm going to be a dancer. And then I found out I could sing when I was like 11. I was like, cool, I can sing. So I can do musical theater. And then as I got a bit older and I was auditioning for these like, really prestigious programs, there was all this like focus on acting. And I don't really think I understood like what that really meant at all until I got there. And I was like, oh, this is a whole... Am I an actor? I don't really know. But in some ways, I think that put me at a pretty good advantage because I felt quite like a blank slate. So I could just sort of absorb all the training and then, use what I needed to use, as opposed to like being told like, this is what acting is. This is how it's supposed to be from a super young age. And then when I graduated and everyone told me like, oh, you're going to go straight to Broadway. Like you're going to sing and do Broadway. And that's sort of what I thought was going to happen. And then I just happened to be getting more attention from film and TV. I think partially because there's just so much more work with all the different networks and streaming services. There's just like so much more work and content being made. And for me, I think my type, quote unquote, was more popular, or there was just more opportunities for someone who looks like me and is like me. And I discovered pretty quickly, I was like, oh, TV and film is not something I thought about, but like, I'm so obsessed with this kind of work. It was so much more natural. Like, I really like reality when it comes to like storytelling. And the difference just is like with theater, it's not necessarily that it's not realistic. You just have to make everything so much bigger, because the person in the, you know, furthest row of the balcony has to be able to hear and see you clearly. So you have to, you know, project and make your movements extra big. And I always got criticized in school for like not being big enough. And I was like, but I'm feeling it inside. Shouldn't that be enough? And then when that was good for TV, I was like, wow, okay, maybe I found a little niche here that I didn't know was going to be good for me. But I really love it.
How was that transition to kind of move away from the musical, the singing, dancing, and going into like the TV and acting space? Was it a steep learning curve, or?
I don't necessarily think it was steep. Like, my program didn't have a lot of focus on TV and film. I just got a bit of it in the last year. So really what I think the actual learning of like how to translate my training from theater to film really just had to do with adjusting what I was revealing for the camera, because it's much closer, you know. And honestly, I think I learned that mostly just through auditioning, like creating self-tapes and noticing, oh, what I just did was too big, so I need to go back and think about how do I make it smaller so that it looks more real. But as far as my approach, like as an actor, my approach is really the same. When I get a script, no matter if it's filmed or live, how I embody or like discover the life of a character is really the same. It just has to do with like how much you're revealing when it's filmed or when you're doing it on stage.
Fair. Got it. And so how did your connection with the whole industry program come about? Is it like, do you have like a manager who looks at opportunities for you? Because for me, this world that you're in is completely like different and foreign to me, just as I assume like banking was when you got given the script. So that's why I'm asking these type of questions. But
so I got really lucky, and my program does what's called a showcase, and there are lots of programs who do this. So at the end of your final year, the graduating class puts together a show where you do, total of like 2 minutes, like half a scene and a little singing for me, or half a scene and a monologue. And the graduating class does that show in New York and LA, or one or the other. We did it in both places. And then our university invites agents and managers, other industry professionals, casting folks. They come to see it. And then they have these, it's actually kind of savage, but they have these like pamphlets with our faces on them, and they put an X or a check mark if they want you to call them for a meeting. So after New York, there was my current manager. She was like, I want a meeting with you. And I met with her, and she was so chill and really nice. And from there, she was like, I'm just going to start sending you things and auditions to like put on tape, and we'll just see how this relationship goes. And we stuck with it. Like, I'm obsessed with her and her whole team. She introduced me to my agent at the time. And then, so they just like shoot me emails. They're like, we pitched you for such and such project. Here's the audition, send it back to us. And then they send it off, and, it's out of my hands from there. But that's not the case for everyone. Like, a showcase in the grand scheme of things, like compared to the number of schools there are, is like relatively rare, and also like a huge blessing. I have no idea how I would have gotten representation if they had not come to that showcase. Most actors, they just sort of go and like to New York or LA, and they'll go to what's called a non-union open call, which is so if you are represented or in a union, you get like not special treatment, but you sort of get first pick, because
Got it.
whoever's auditioning you is like, oh, they're represented or they're in the union, which means they're credible for XYZ reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're new and you don't have an opportunity like a showcase to meet someone, you have to pitch yourself to these agencies and to these management companies, which is hard because then they're like, well, show me what you've got. And if you're new, you're like, I don't really have anything. That can be really difficult. So I know that I'm really blessed to have had that opportunity at first, but I guess that's what you pay for going to a university like Carnegie Mellon.
Indeed. And you're making it sound very easy, but I'm sure there's a lot of graft and hard work that goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And okay, so then you get the role and they tell you, okay, you're gonna be Harper Stern. Do they tell you she's the lead character? Like, what was your expectation, and how, like, was it easy for you to play Harper? Were there similarities between you as a normal person and as the character, or did it take some adjusting? How did that go about?
Yeah, so in the audition process, which for me I think was about a month or maybe a little bit less, which to me felt really fast, because some projects can be casting forever and you'll audition and then months later they'll be like, okay, we want to see you again, or we don't. But this is quite quick for me. So when I first got this audition come across my email, like any other one, I was like, oh, let me look at it. Let me look at the script. Okay, I'll slap it on and send it off. And then, I don't know, less than a week later, my management was like, hey, they really liked this. Do these other scenes. And I was like, oh, bet. Okay, cool. So I did the other scenes and they were like, a few days later, hey, they really liked this. They want you to meet the writers. And I was like, oh, okay. So I did a Zoom very similar to this with Mickey and Conrad. And they were like, hey, we really liked your approach to this. It seems like you really understand the world, which was hilarious to me because I didn't. And they were like, here's some notes, retape and send them off to us. I did that. Very soon after, they were like, they loved your tapes. They want you to meet the director. It's Lena Dunham. So like, don't say anything stupid. So I did. I went and met Lena Dunham, who is an angel, one of the kindest, most generous, fun people I've ever met in my life.
That's nice.
And then very soon after that, they were like, they want you to go test in London. And then they flew me out. And then, so in that whole process, like, and this is not always the case, but I think once you start to get into that like multiple auditions or recall space, they'll send you scripts. So before I had even gone over there, I had read scripts 1 through 4 and they're like, newest iterations. So I had a pretty good idea of these characters, their relationships, and the world they were in. On the page, it felt like I understood that the audience was entering this world through Harper's eyes. So I knew there was gonna be lots of responsibility on my shoulders, which I was like, give it to me. Like, yes, let's do it. Like, blind, fierce optimism and courage that I had to have, because, or else I would have been probably overcome with anxiety and fear. But yeah, I mean, I knew that it was going to be hard and long, and that I had a huge responsibility for a lot of how our audience was going to see the world. I knew almost instantly who Harper was. I understood, because I mean, she's a mixed Black American girl coming up in her industry, and that's exactly what I am and who I am. It just happens to be that it was in theater and not in finance. So I essentially was like, I know exactly like where all these instincts are coming from. I personally, Myha'la may not make all the choices that she makes to deal with those feelings. However, I knew why she was doing them. And the thing I think I mostly identified was her feeling extremely disadvantaged compared to so many of her peers. But knowing that she has to be and is the best person for the job in the room. And whether or not you feel that way, you have to let whoever it is you're trying to impress understand that you are indispensable. Like, you have to make yourself so attractive that they have to take you, make yourself undeniable. And she does it by this really like stony, like, I'm not giving you anything, but like, here's all this money next to my name type of attitude, which I so love. I love that she does that. I mean, it does end up biting her in the butt a little bit later. But
Okay.
it was a joy and a pleasure to play someone who's like that, and then finding the places where she reveals those cracks in her armor. It was a huge challenge, and also like really rewarding to do.
I honestly think you do an amazing job of, because there's a lot of viewers who aren't, you know, banking and finance background. The show is not necessarily, it's focused on banking and finance, but it appeals to a broader audience because it's the world of work, right? And so through Harper Stern, it guides the viewer into like, okay, there's this underdog, she's very motivated, she's able, she's capable, and you take everyone on that journey. And it's like, it allows a non-finance person to step into that world and open their eyes without even knowing or needing to know the jargon and all of that. So it's really nice to see. How have you dealt with or found the response? Because as each episode comes up, it just seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, man, it's pretty wild. I like to say, without a shadow of a doubt, I always knew that it was going to be well received, but that was just my opinion, because when I got the script, I was like, this writing, like, it is so rare for an actor, a person to like read a script, come over this, like see a new show and be like, this writing is so thorough and so real that like you get swept up in the world while you're reading it. I remember the first time I finished the end of the 4th script, I was like in my bed in Brooklyn in the middle of the night, like sweating bullets, having no idea what was going on, but knowing that like I needed to know what happened to these people, right? And like I knew then, I was like, this is good writing because I don't know what they're talking about, but I'm so invested. I get this transitional period. I understand what it feels like to be like a newbie in a huge industry where you're expected to behave like an adult. So I'm really proud mostly of what we've done, because people are responding to it in such a, they're responding to it in the way that I responded to it when I read the script. It is quite strange because I mean, I'm one of only 2 people here in America. Ken Leung is here as well, but we don't, I mean, can't see anyone. I can't go out. I can't do anything. I can't like feel or hear the response in real time, but I am like glued to my phone, like looking at Twitter, being like, it's been really exciting. I'm just really proud and like happy for Mickey and Conrad and happy for all of us. I'm just like, it feels, it's pretty undescribable to say like how proud I am that other people are responding in the way that I'm responding to, because I love this project so much.
What were the team like? The cast seemed great. Everyone that worked on this it seems like, especially like from seeing your social media and how everyone, you know, on the show and off the show, everyone seems to really be well connected. Everyone gets on with each other. How was it like working with the other members on the team?
It was amazing. This is another thing that I think is quite special about the show and special about this team is like, you don't always expect to arrive to work. It's still a job. It might be fun, but it's work, and make lifelong friends. Like these people, they took me in so quick. I kind of forced it on them as well. I was like, I'm alone here and I need friends. So like, please be nice to me. But they really took me in. They like taught me about slang and like let me know what the joke was when I didn't get it. They're all so kind and talented beyond belief. Like I learned so much from all of these people, and it was really nice. This show is not just young people and old people. Like there's a huge age range and like actors of all kinds from all over the place, that there was so much learning to be had, especially me being quite new. It was kind of like a master class, because I was also learning, you know, techniques and perspectives and approaches from people who were trained in London, which I just, you know, have no reference to. It's really special. And I think part of the thing that bound us is that we all have so much love and respect for the script, for the writing, for the story. Like that was the first thing. We came onto this knowing like this is a special project, which just makes people so hype, you know? And then we could sort of like geek out together about how much we like the show. And then for me and Harry and David and Marisa, like we were all sort of coming into this relatively fresh, being like, oh my God, having a little imposter syndrome, just like our characters. So we really gravitated towards each other and leaned on each other as we were going through these new experiences as actors, and our characters were going through these new experiences as young people in finance. It was nice that our personal trajectory was mirroring our characters a little bit. Made for really good bonding. I'm obsessed with them. They're amazing.
It sounds like a lot of fun, and it sounds really, really interesting and a good experience. But I'm conscious of your time, so I just want to ask before we wrap up. So you go to Times Square and then you see your face on a huge billboard. Tell me about that experience, because that must have felt insane.
I cried like a baby. Which I wasn't expecting. I mean, my two of my friends had taken me to go see it. It was like on a whim, you know, like late, and we just were like, let's go to Times Square. And it was empty, of course, because there's nobody around and everyone's at home. But we went to go see it, and I had already seen it in a photo. I knew it was there. And then when I got there, I don't know how many yards, I was far away from it when I first saw my face. And I was looking at it and I was like, wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. And then the closer I got and the like smaller I started to feel compared to it. And like, I don't know, I guess the gravity of the thing really hit me. I like burst into tears because I was just I never imagined my face huge in Times Square. I just didn't think about it. Maybe because I wasn't really thinking about a life in TV and film. So it just didn't occur to me that was going to happen. So it was a really shocking and pleasant new kind of like validation. Yeah. It was like, when I was looking at that, it was like I was being told like, congrats, you did it. Like, you really did justice to this thing. And so here it is in this massive monument, like for everyone to see.
It's like the cherry on the cake.
Seriously. And the kind of thing that it doesn't, you know, having your face on a billboard doesn't equate success. It was just a whole nother kind of like, congratulations, you've been gifted this nice thing because you did a good job. And that was really touching. And it was special to have my friends there. And I so wished the rest of the cast had been there with me, you know, in another life, maybe we would have all seen it together. But on the one hand, I guess I'm happy I didn't cry in front of them.
That's such a nice experience. I can only imagine what it felt like.
It was magic.
You'd be surprised on the YouTube channel. I get like people watching it who are interested in banking and finance and stuff, but you also get people that are not part of that industry. Anyone, if there's any young person or anyone watching that wants to break into the creative industry, acting, all of that, what advice or, you know, guidance or any words of wisdom would you have for them, or any tips that have helped you, you know, along the way?
I think the most valuable lesson I have learned in my relatively short journey to this moment that I'm at right now, which I think qualifies for everyone, you know, in every facet of life, in your career, in your personal life, be yourself all the time. Yeah. Just be yourself all the time, because there were moments when I thought, oh, maybe I'm too androgynous for people I'm not palatable enough. I'm sort of in this in-between. I'm like too eccentric. I'm all of these things that I think people can't put me in a box, so they don't know what to do with me, and they can't see beyond all of that to see like my talent or what I'm bringing to the table. And there was definitely a moment where I thought, oh, maybe I need to like grow my hair out, or maybe I need to lose a pound or two, or, you know, or be more feminine. Maybe I need to wear makeup all the time. And that started to really crush my soul. I'm definitely a person who like expresses who they are as a sort of confirmation of myself. And I realized, like, when I got industry, it was at a moment where I thought maybe I need to become more palatable to this industry that I'm going into. And then when I got industry, what they said to me was, we love you exactly how you are. Like, nice. What you've brought to this is what made it special. So I would say, hold on to yourself, no matter what it is you're doing in any relationship, business or otherwise. Really hold on to yourself, take care of yourself in that way. And like, whatever it is that is meant for you will find you. As long as you know, working towards those goals, the right thing for you will find you. And when it finally does, it's going to be so lit.
It will be lit. Amazing. Well, if you've got any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
I don't necessarily think I have any questions at this moment, but what I'm super excited about, if you choose to, is, you know, more of your thoughts on the show as it goes on.
Sure.
I think you're a genius. I just love the way you dissect the whole thing. I love your reactions. It just makes me feel so excited, because one of the things we were the most worried about is like, you know, who's going to watch this? Who's going to enjoy it? Like, are people in this actual industry going to enjoy the show? So I mean, it just tickles me pink that you even do this. So I'm just looking forward to hearing more from you if you feel so inclined.
Definitely. Now I'm looking to do the reviews. They've seemed to gone down very well with the audience. A lot of people like it. So yeah, there'll be reaction videos for the future episode. But yeah, no, amazing. And yeah, this honestly, like, this was a long shot for me to reach out to you and get you to talk here, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for having me. It's great.
No worries. Thank you so much. And if you've got any questions, if I can ever help, shout out to me. You got my Insta, all of that.
I'm gonna shoot you a DM so quick.
Have a lovely day.
Thanks, man. You too.
Take care.
If you made it this far, I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Let me know if you've got any questions or comments. And if you made it this far, put an emoji in the comments so I know that you've made it this far. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you.